Macmillan Audio presents The Prodigy by John Feinstein, read for you by the author.
This book is dedicated to the memory of David Sattler, who didn't love golf, but who absolutely adored his children. It was an honor to call him my brother for 27 years. Part 1. Chapter 1. The ball was already in the air when Frank Baker yelled, "Last chance to save a dozen if you quit now." "No way," came the answer from Slugger Johnston in the golf cart on the other side of the fairway, which was exactly what Frank had expected his teacher to say. In truth, it was what Frank had hoped Slugger would say. The ball cut through the dewy early morning air and landed about 20 feet short of the flag on the 18th green at Perryton Country Club. It took one hop, then rolled forward before skidding to a stop somewhere inside 5 feet. Frank couldn't be certain how close the ball was to the hole because the green was slightly elevated and the flagstick was near the back of the green. He didn't need to see it, though, to know it was close. The shot had felt perfect coming off his club. Slugger had already hit his second shot into the right-hand bunker, which was why Frank had been willing to give him a chance to concede his victory and only to have to buy Frank a dozen Dunkin' Donuts on the way to dropping him at school. During the school year, this was their weekday morning routine. Slugger would pick Frank up, and they'd arrive at the club by 5:30, hit balls for 30 minutes, and then jump in a cart and play a quick 9 holes. They would play for a dozen Dunkin' Donuts. Each press, starting another mini-match if one player fell 2 holes behind, was worth another 6. Frank usually won, and always shared his winnings with kids in his first class of the day, which was the only way his skill at the sport had ever earned him much admiration among his classmates. If Frank's putt for birdie went in, he'd shoot 34, 2 under par. Slugger, who had been the golf pro at Perryton CC for 5 years, and Frank's swim coach for almost as long, was still a good player at the age of 32. But when Frank was on his game, Slugger couldn't beat him. Frank had already closed out the dozen donuts match, and Slugger had pressed for 6 more on the 18th tee. Frank's offer to let him off the hook wasn't so much about showing mercy as about making Slugger give up with the ball in the air, which Frank knew Slugger would never even think about. It was Frank's way of taunting. You didn't get to taunt while playing golf too often. Frank had only been 147 yards from the flag when he hit his second shot. He'd brought his putter with him so he could walk up to the green. It was only a little after 7. But the air was already warm and the bright blue sky was cloudless. Frank and Slugger both wore golf caps and sunglasses to protect themselves from the already blazing morning sun. When they teed off on number 10 at 6 o'clock, they alternated 9s each morning. Today was a back 9 day. The sun was up, but there was still a hint of coolness in the air. Frank loved this time of day and loved being on the golf course at such an early hour. Most of the time, he and Slugger had the place to themselves, could still see some dew on the grass, and as they drove off the 10th tee, could see most of the back 9. The trees overhanging the fairways, the pristine bunkers, and the water houses were fun to look at from a distance, as long as you kept your golf ball away from them. Sunrise and sunset were great times to be on a golf course. That was especially true for Frank Baker, whose full name was John Franklin Baker, after the early 20th century Baseball Hall of Fame player John Franklin Home Run Baker. Thomas Baker was a baseball junkie with a passion for the history of the sport. He had once dreamed that his only kid would be a baseball star, and had called him Home Run when he was little. But now he was completely immersed in Frank's golf career. Frank was not quite 17, wrapping up his junior year at Storrs Academy. He was being recruited by every college in the country that had a big-time golf team. He had no idea where he wanted to go to school.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?